I mean, we've done 10 episodes now, so we're maybe almost halfway through a season or potentially halfway through a season. And so maybe now it's a good time to retouch base with you where you're at in the series and also kind of how your thoughts are during this rewatch in terms of are you feeling like you expected to about the show? What things surprise you about this rewatch? What things don't surprise you? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm currently just last night I watched in season 7, episode 14 called Fallout. And so that's where I'm at right now. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting because it was so long in between times of when I actually watched it. I think how old was I when I first watched it? How old were we? You had introduced it to me, so we were like early
Early 20s.
20s, early 20s. And I'm 38 now. Yeah, I mean, I think like I can't honestly very specifically remember how I felt when I was watching it back then to fully like judge like how I might perceive things differently. Um, but I do always remember back in the day of like certain like characters standing out to me. So like I liked the idea of Sam and Jack, being like a possibility. I liked that vibe. I liked all the different characters. I liked Daniel and Teal'c and all of that. And then I had forgotten about other characters that then come in. And if I remember correctly, I think like when Jonas came in last time, the Jonas character. I know we've talked about this before, but I really like I was thinking about it. I'm like I can't remember like if I was as initially welcoming with his character, even though like I said last time, like I've always liked his character because I have, but I think probably there was a slight hesitancy there. So I maybe remember feeling a little bit different about his character there than this time, even though I forgot about his character again this time when he came in, like really liked that. And then overall story wise, I think it kind of feels the same for the most part. I think things that like stand out to me that I think are kind of funny are like little things that I never noticed before. I mean, maybe I did notice before, like the little like jokes and innuendos that gather up throughout the later seasons that I never noticed. And then in terms of just like storyline, I think I probably like it in the same way. Um, I've always kind of had like some episodes where like with the Jaffa, like when it's like maybe solely based on like I remember there being one specific episode. I feel bad saying this, but I think it was one that Christopher Judge actually wrote because I noticed what's cool is a lot of the people from the show sometimes have had like the
Hmm.
ability to write for the
For
or at
sure, for
least
sure.
help with the storyline. I remember there being one that was all about the Jaffa and like it was like a rebel group that was gathering together. That episode for some reason I always found kind of boring. And so like I think like the same episodes that I used to kind of like feel were a little bit boring compared to some is kind of the same thing. And then the one thing I have noticed as the seasons go on is just kind of like I feel like the vibe certainly changes and progresses. So it's like this may be an unpopular opinion, but sometimes I feel like as the seasons go on, as much as I love them, there's a lot of um seriousness to it that
Hmm.
sometimes I find myself like really wanting an episode where it has some element of silliness to it just because of my personality. Like I enjoy those episodes along with the serious ones. And so sometimes when it's like constant like battles and different things going on that are serious that happen, I find that the later seasons, like once you get to like season 6 up and now partway through season 7, it feels like it keeps a level of seriousness longer than it did
Hmm.
in the beginning. At least that's how I'm kind of perceiving it. Um, So yeah, I'm not even sure if I answered your question at all, but
No, I mean that's a really nice reflection actually. And it's interesting to hear like the that even though like it's kind of a lot of difference in between, and also that I mean in the time between like TV and everything has changed so much. I mean, one thing that you mentioned that I think is also true for me is like a lot of the kind of like little tiny details and silly banter like that you said maybe you notice it more every time I watch like a do a rewatch or something. I there's something that I noticed that I didn't catch the previous time, or you notice
yeah,
it the second time through because you have a more understanding of the characters. And so I think that's something that I always appreciate like in a rewatch that maybe you don't notice the first time,
yeah,
or like little things like because sometimes there's stories where once you know how it happens, you can see things that happen early on that kind of really either lead to that or have a greater impact once you know how it turns out. And so that those kind of things I think are I really appreciate when
yeah,
I um kind of rewatch it, but I also forget plots a lot, so
yeah,
I'm one of those. But I mean, it's interesting that you also mention this sort of kind of progression of, the evolution of it over time. I think that they do they do still have that kind of like every season there's some silly episode,
yeah,
but probably there's more episodes that are like continuous, and some of the like I think what I found is like especially when you get to like season 6 or 7, the enemies themselves are more like intense or more like
yeah.
serious, or there's more, like I mean Apophis himself, like the first villain was kind of like in a way like humorous, like if you
Hmm.
really look back at it, I mean because he's so
Yeah,
over the top and so
yeah.
ridiculous, and like but like Ball is very serious.
Hmm.
I mean, I love like some of the my favorite moments are like him and Jack talking back and forth. And in season 8, I think you get more of that, like where they're kind of
Yeah, I was gonna
bantering a wee
say,
bit.
yeah, I was gonna say he hasn't been in a whole lot. Like, if I'm remembering, like he was in like a few episodes. I don't even know if that was season 6 or 7. I don't
Mhm.
remember. And then like, yeah, I think with the most recent episode I watched, which was Fallout, that's when I think there was they realized something was what was happening in that episode was connected with Ball, I believe. Um
Right. That's
like
true. Yeah.
yeah, but you don't actually like I haven't actually seen him very much. I think the one where they show him for like a good portion is that episode where he's torturing
O'Neill.
who's he torturing? Yeah, he's torturing Jack O'Neill. Yeah. And that's kind of like the I think the first time where I've seen a majority of him in the episode. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see, because I know like a lot of fans and stuff talk a lot about him. So like I haven't seen like a whole lot with him. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And also what I'm sad about is I didn't know that the real life actor passed away.
Yes, that's
Like
true.
and I was looking that up and I think it was in some sort of like kiteboarding accident or something. I was shocked with that because like I had seen someone post up in a fan page about one people that have passed away from that show. And so I saw his picture of his face on that and I was just like, what? Like that's gotta be a mistake because he would like, I was just thinking age wise, like he, would maybe normally still be alive. And so like
For sure, yeah.
yeah, so that's sad. But yeah, anyways, oh, I did want to also say like I don't know if you feel the same way, but like I feel like I'm normally someone with like rewatches of anything that I don't actually like. As a kid, I used to love rewatching things. Like I would watch a movie a million times. But as an adult, I'm not really someone for rewatching. Like I love rewatching, like I love watching a show and that's that, but I find it very different for me with Stargate. And I feel like that shows how good they are because I feel like I don't know how many shows that I've even loved that I would say, oh yeah, I want to watch it from the beginning of season one all the way through again. Like I can't say that I would necessarily feel like doing that unless there was maybe like a massive break and I just felt like it. But like, so I find for me it interesting that I personally love rewatching it. Like I would love to then go back again and rewatch it and
Yeah.
see like how I felt differently about it. And I know you've watched it more rewatched it more times than I have. Like this is my second time through. Um, but yeah, so I was just curious your thoughts on that because like I think that's kind of goes to show you like how good the shows are, regardless of if there's ones that are favorite shows or ones that in my mind might be a tiny bit more boring at times. Like overall, I really love all the shows, except for
Yeah.
those recaps.
Yeah, except for the recaps, which we're doing right now. We're doing Emily's favorite recap. But no, it's 100% true because I mean, I've seen it many times. I'm also really bad at remembering things from shows, and I do like to catch those little like I noticed like maybe I just didn't catch the detail the first time around, and so the next time around I catch it. But I do have fun like just watching the characters interact with each other. And like the humor for me, like it doesn't get old because it's somehow like it's not really like I mean, and this maybe goes to like where the show comes from is like the humor isn't really related to like a an epoch or something. Like you don't necessarily watch it and go, oh yeah, all the humor in this is very clearly like the 90s. I
Mhm.
mean the visual effects, sure, and like some of the episode like the how the storylines progress, but in terms of like the kind of humor they have, it's more like just that kind of goofy humor and lightheartedness that really can be applied to anything.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like I mean it almost like what I find is that they have this approach to yeah, I mean even when things get really serious, um they kind of still try and have this like humorousness about it. And I think you were almost about to the end of season 7, and I'm really interested to hear because you're talking about like, there's a little bit more gravity to the season, but in the final episodes, they're very, very serious, like what's actually going on. But some of my favorite, really funny and cute scenes between like the team happen in this episodes leading up to the end of the
Hmm.
season. And so I guess we'll have to revisit that
Yeah. Yeah.
because it is kind of interesting what you mentioned because for my like when I was thinking about it, I was like, oh, actually, yeah, I mean, season 6, I always felt like had a little bit of a darker undertone to it than
Hmm.
some of the other seasons. But in season 7, they kind of came back and there were some more serious things. And I think when they deal with like the Earth drama, a lot of it is more serious.
Yeah.
Um, but there are some, because like the team is kind of like really connected at this point and very like their dynamics are so solid, and I think it's really near the end of season 7 and then also throughout season 8 that they really I think they play with that a little bit more.
Mm, okay.
And so maybe that's something where you'll say okay, that's lightheartedness is a little bit still there. And I mean I think maybe it's also as you like just Anubis I think is a villain where there really is nothing funny about him.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think even with Ball, I guess, like there's the way he kind of talks to O'Neill and like certain things where he isn't so, and because he knows like he kind of doesn't drink his own Kool-Aid, like I think we've talked about this before. I think it makes a little bit of less of that with a villain, but I feel like Anubis as a villain was just so everything is really serious that it kind of put a little bit of a
Yeah.
darkness. I don't know if
Yeah.
you noticed that as well or like yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I would totally agree with that for sure. Definitely. Um, yeah. And it isn't that I don't like the dark episodes. I definitely do. I just think it is nice. And they still do, obviously, like you said, they still do have their moments throughout probably every episode where there's those bits of humor that I think are really nice. It's just it is like a noticeable thing of it progressing to get
Hmm.
worse and worse almost, but that makes sense, like if you think about it, like, you know, like it makes sense that the more they explore, the more they find these other things that, or gods or whatever you want to call them that are, kind of badonkers and want to kill everyone and
Right,
rule
yeah.
the world. And it makes sense. Like, I mean, it would probably would never have worked as well as it did had they just kind of stayed completely lighthearted, obviously that doesn't make any sense and I wouldn't want that. So I do overall like the blend of it all. It's just
Yep.
something like within myself when I watch things, especially if you're binge watching. I
Yeah.
think it's a little bit harder for me to binge watch when it's constant like darkness of everything. And that's just a personal thing for me, how I am when I watch things. Like I get really like affected, I get really into it, and I get really affected like when I watch stuff. So it's like even like with other shows, if like there's something that's like a really like or even like if it's a documentary, it's a really like heavy topic, I might find that I really want to watch it, and then I watch it and then I kind of feel crappy afterwards, so then like I need to watch something happy. So
Yeah.
that's just how I am.
Yeah, I mean that's interesting because like I notice I think what it is there's maybe a little bit of a loss of naivety from the
Mm,
beginning where like they kind of
yeah.
didn't know. And something I notice because now I'm watching it with Atlantis. And I mean to be fair, Atlantis, I mean when you watch it, it does start with like a very, dark enemy and it's a little bit even more serious, but I notice like somehow you have Atlantis that now re reignites that kind of naivety because they're once again in a new place. And
Mm.
so I find that then when you start season 8 and like Atlantis, some of that is brought back, even just because
Oh, okay.
they're in a new situation. And um, it's interesting for me because like I am now in the middle of well, at the end actually of season 9 and of SG-1 and 2 of Atlantis is mentioning these things about like characters that maybe the first time through you didn't like or did like, and I don't think there were really characters like that for me, but I noticed the first time that I watched like season 9 and 10, and I'm really curious to like maybe later when you're finished with everything we'll kind of check in about this, but the first time I watched season 9 and 10 I actually thought they were weaker. Like I didn't think they were that good. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
there's cast. It's like, oh no, it doesn't feel like Stargate anymore. But
Mm-hmm.
like now, I really love them.
Mm-hmm.
Like once I kind of was like, I think you have this kind of initial feeling of like, oh no, so the main cast isn't the same and everything. And
Yeah.
then like when you let that go and like just enjoy it because like it is really good and they do a really good job of kind of refreshing, like creating a new like antagonist that kind of is similar, but like I mean not similar, but like comes from a similar aspect and has the same kind of situation surrounding it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yet it's it has to be a little bit more uh gravity because now they have so much more technology and things at their disposal, otherwise there'd be no conflict. They do a really good job, I thought, of like kind of creating something within the world that was like new and worked within the world and but also was integrated really nicely into what is Stargate SG-1. I thought they did a really good
Yeah.
job. And I'm
Yeah.
curious to, I mean, I don't know, like, if you remember, like, what was your initial feeling when you got to season 9 and 10, or do you not remember?
Um, I don't fully remember. I do know when they switched over. I don't even fully remember the context. I know that Jack O'Neill ends up not being part of the main cast anymore. And I remember being really, really heartbroken over that.
Yeah, same.
Like just thinking, what the hell? Like this doesn't make sense. But I do remember still loving the show. I think but I do remember it feeling different. Um, but it'll be interesting to see like how it feels now going to it. Like there's a lot that I don't remember of what happens or the context of things or different stuff. But yeah, I think I do remember being quite sad that he was no longer like in the main cast, and I think I I vaguely remember having a feeling of always hoping that he would be coming back
Mm-hmm.
and kind of being part of the main cast again. And it's nothing against the other character. I think I also liked the other character as well that comes in and kind of takes his place. I think I also liked him as well, similar to kind of like how with like Jonas Quinn and Daniel Jackson, I like both, and
Yeah.
so it, one thing I want to ask you actually, now that I mentioned the Jonas Quinn and Daniel Jackson thing, is when do you remember like the episode I just watched?
Mm-hmm.
What is it called? Fallout. Jonas Quinn comes back, and this is the first time he's seen, I'm not sure if it's the only time he's seen again, I don't really remember, um that, after him not being on the SG-1 team anymore. And I found his character to feel very different, actually, to
Really?
when he was on the team. Like, I found the interactions to feel kind of weird, and I
Hmm.
can't quite pinpoint why. I don't know if I
If
don't
it's
know if
the
I was
haircut?
distracted by the Bieber haircut and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
the
yeah.
the clothes. I was used
Yep.
to seeing him in like the SG-1 like team like clothes, and but I just felt like the way which actually logically, if you think about it, makes sense. If he was away from them and
Yeah.
then they come back, it's the equivalent of if we were to suddenly see someone from high school that maybe we were friends with in high school. The dynamic would still feel different. Like, like you see someone in person after a while, and then maybe it's different. So maybe that's intentional, I don't know, but something to me felt a little detached, if that makes sense. Like, I felt
Interesting.
like something felt off to me. And I'm not sure if that's just me that felt that. I'd be curious if anyone else remembers, like, that's watching this, if anyone's watched that episode where Jonas Quinn comes back. So that's season 7, episode 14. Um, did you get a different vibe off of his character than, when he was initially in season 6? But
Yeah.
yeah, did you not notice any of that? Like, it just felt normal to you?
Like it's interesting because I guess like I wasn't thinking about it. And I mean, I'd probably have to like rewatch it and think about it because I think in the moment I didn't think anything was weird. I thought the hair was a bit like, like I
Yeah.
think that's probably a little bit where you're like, oh, whoa. But I think, I mean, in the end, I was like, oh, cool, Jonas is back. And I mean, maybe it's like I always kind of interpreted like Jonas as like this sort of like naive, happy, flirty character too, a little bit.
Hmm.
Like I think he was always a little bit more like that, and maybe it's kind of like he was in a relationship in that episode, and so maybe that's where that, sort of he was a little bit toned down in that sense, and maybe that's
Yeah.
why. I don't know, because like that would be the slight difference is that in the he was kind of like a single dude in the season
Yeah.
6, but I don't know if that's like something like they would pick up on and write, and or if it's just like, it was unintentional or intentional that he kind of was a little bit different. I have no idea.
Like
But
part of
that's an interesting observation.
part of me wondered, from an acting perspective, if it felt strange for the actor to kind of go back in that role because he was away from it for a while, and maybe that's what I was feeling. I don't know.
That's a good
And I
question, yeah.
don't mean that in a disrespectful way by any means, but I just mean, like, I just felt like there was something I was picking up on, and it could have just been the nature of what was happening in the episode was serious, and so,
Yep.
like you said, he was more serious. And then also, if he's involved with another character in that, maybe it makes sense that he would be a little bit different. Um but just something felt different, and maybe it was just the changing of surroundings, the changing of the look, the changing of the clothes, everything in that sense was different. So maybe that was what I was just sensing and feeling very different. But yeah, yeah, I did notice that, though. But
Hmm.
yeah.
I wonder if also part of it was like he was on his home planet rather than being
Yeah.
like on SGC. So maybe that's also something. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to say, but interesting observation. Like, I mean, this as we're talking about coming back to things and like,
Yeah.
like it's interesting. There's always this sort of the context things are in can also change them. So maybe that's part of it is he with
Yeah.
his characters in a different context, but that's very interesting.
Yeah, because I guess, like, his character when he was with SG-1 always seemed to me to be so, like, thirsty for knowledge and almost kind of excited all the time, even if it was something bad. Um and sometimes kind of humorous in the sense of like when he first joined them, he was a little unsure of himself with things. But it would make sense, people live and grow with different experiences, and then that does actually change them. So everyone's like that. So maybe by the time he's went back there, he has all this other responsibilities that he's now doing, and then they've built that big thing, drill looking thing,
Yeah, exactly.
and
Yeah.
like all of this other research stuff that he's probably done. Like it would make sense. So maybe it was an actual like decision to have his character be that way, but it was definitely something that stood out to me since the last time I had seen that character. So yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, that's an interesting observation. Yeah, I'm trying to think, like, I guess, I mean, it's weird because if you look at like when I'm just thinking about the other characters, like in a way, Daniel has a similar, like he starts off very, I mean, I guess in a way he's probably a little bit jaded because he starts off where like the academic community has, shunned him, but at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, his character initially is a little bit more like hopeful and, but then all these things happen, like the Goa'uld like kidnap his wife and force her to be implanted with the queen, and then he loses his like ex-girlfriend and ex-colleague to the Goa'uld, and so I think over time his character becomes a little bit less
Yeah.
in that direction. It's funny because I feel like with Teal'c, that doesn't happen. And I mean, I guess maybe it's because like his character has already seen everything, so he kind of already has that perspective from the beginning, and then it's almost like his character becomes in a way more positive throughout
Mm-hmm.
because he sees that something can be done and there's people that are willing to help. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like the opposite trajectory of the
Yeah.
it's interesting, right?
Yeah, I mean, I do feel with Teal'c's character that he does kind of like, I noticed this actually in the last episode that I watched, where Jonas comes back. I felt like Teal'c's character acts a little bit more like the people of Earth a little bit, like
Yeah.
as opposed to, how in the beginning he's very kind of like robotic with how he speaks and things like that. Um, because like there was a scene in that episode that I watched that him and Jack are irritated by the people that are there that need to be helped to be brought into another world. I forget what the names of all of them are. It's the people of Jonas's world, and then there was like other people from other
Hmm.
planets that normally they were at battle against each other,
Hmm.
and then they were all like needing help to find another planet to go on, and initially they're all bickering back and forth and wanting to be on separate planets and blaming
Yep.
each other for everything, and it's going on and on and on with them bickering. So then Jack kind of leaves it up to Daniel to deal with, and then Jack and Teal'c both just kind of go in the elevator, and they're just like saying how they're done with it, and like they're just like leaving, like they don't want to deal with it. And I found that really funny for Teal'c to say that, because
Yes. Right.
I felt like Tilk's very, very like, I don't even know what the right word would be, but he's just very like cool headed, and like he just kind of sits there and observes and like speaks very little at times, and like seems to not be affected by those kind of things, and mainly seems to be more affected like if it's something like fighting for freedom for the Jaffa to believe in the false, like realize it's false gods, that kind of thing. Like he's very passionate about that, but when it comes to other things he's more subdued. At least that's my take on him, and so I was a little bit surprised that like he was so irritated by them too.
Totally, totally, totally. And I think his character breaks out a little bit more into that in the
Yeah.
season 8 and 9, and that's, I mean, that's something I really love about especially the last few seasons, because they really I think they really give the cast a little bit more. I don't want to say freedom because I don't think it's freedom. It's just they let the characters kind of guide things
Develop,
more.
yeah.
Yeah, and like really fully, even though like obviously they have such good like development and like I'm every time I rewatch it, I'm just like, oh, the chemistry of this. Because anything you watch, like in comparison, it's like so hard to compare to the chemistry of this, like of the
Yeah.
characters in the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what season is it that Teal'c ends up getting hair?
Oh, I think is it season 8 already? He might have hair already
Is it
the next
okay on
season.
season 8? Okay, I was curious because I've seen
Potentially, yeah.
pictures of him with hair, and I'm just like, what season is that?
Yeah, suddenly he has hair, and then yeah, I think it stays until the end.
Oh, cool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and yeah, I mean, there's also like every season Carter has a different haircut, and there's like kind of the question of which haircut is the best. But I
Yeah.
think
Do you have a favorite?
that's a good question. I don't like, I mean, right now I'm in season 9 and I like it. I like a lot of I think some of the later ones I think are nice, but that might just be me like thinking, the earlier ones, it's like you can tell they're more 90s haircuts. And
Yeah.
so like they start looking a little bit like more dated in terms of the style, whereas like
Yeah.
when you get to like you know, the like season 9, 8, 9, and 10, it's like I don't know if it's just the way that they started to cut hair, it really was more flattering for people's faces and everything,
Yeah.
like in comparison. I mean, nothing like the early 90s. I'm really glad that the show didn't take place in the early 90s or late 80s because uh-uh. There's some bad hairstyles, but
Yeah. I mean, I think all so far I've pretty much liked all of her hairstyles, some more than others. The the very first one was just very old fashioned to me. Like for
yeah.
that time, it probably was great, but it was just a little bit old fashioned for me liking it as much. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of like the same feeling I have. It's like it looks good, but it's like you can tell like it's, if it's like you watch anything from the 90s, it's like the haircuts are just a little different and so it dates it. But
Yeah.
I mean, they all look really, and I think it's cool. Like it kind of popularized like a shorter hairstyle and
Yeah.
but I guess there's also later and later she will have long hair. You will see.
Oh, nice. Nice. Cool. Very cool. I mean, I think she's had long hair once when she was her alternate self.
Yes, exactly. Whenever
Um,
she wasn't military, I think she had the
yeah.
longer hair.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, so one thing that we have like a special surprise in this episode, and that is that Martin, who has been featured on a previous episode before, has prepared us some questions for each other.
Woohoo.
And it's kind of a two part. So there's the first part where I guess we have these questions and we've prepared our answers and we have to see if we can guess each other's answer. And then there's a trivia game.
Yeah.
And so I thought this is kind of like a fun thing now that you're in already almost through season 7 and about to like go through a major change because Atlantis will start too. So, and by then
Yeah.
I think we're just not going to be able to do trivia because it's just too much, but we will try our best. So maybe let's start with the questions where we have to guess each other's, and then we'll ask
Okay.
each other like trivia.
Okay.
So the first question is, who would you rather be stuck on a remote island for 6 months with? A Nox or Teal'c? And I am gonna say that you would say a Nox.
You are correct.
Really?
Yes.
Okay,
I
what would
think
you?
you would say a Nox as well.
That's true. Yeah, I put Nox, but like now I'm starting to think about it and I'm like, I would really love to be stranded with a Nox, but I think like Teal'c would I don't know. Like on the other hand, like they can really do some amazing stuff. So even if you wanted to get off the island, they probably could like somehow get you off. Like they probably know how to fly. They just don't say it, right? Like they have
Yeah.
probably lots of skills. So I'm thinking, yeah, Till could probably build you a boat and help you get on the off the island if you wanted to get off the island. But for all we know, the Nox could fly.
Well,
So
and also though the Nox can also heal. So
true.
if you get hurt, you want to be healed. Whereas with
True that,
Teal'c, he's not going to be able to heal you. Like he can heal himself with his symbiote, but like he can't
but not
like
you.
heal you. So like while I love Teal'c and like he certainly like would be able to help with a lot of things. That's why I picked the Nox because I was just like, oh, they could heal you. Like if you get hurt, they can heal you.
Good point. That's a
Yeah.
very good point.
Yeah.
Do you want to read the second question?
Sure. So who is the better fighter, Coombs or Felger? Did I say their
Oh,
names correctly?
yeah. What do you think I said?
Oh shit. This was a tricky one.
Hmm.
I am just completely guessing,
Hmm.
and I'm just gonna say Coombs.
That's what I said. That's
Did you?
absolutely what I said. Because this is how I feel about it. I think that Coombs, like, he's really flustered, and he's like this super Star Trek fan and everything, but I think down inside he probably like knows how to do things that he doesn't reveal. Whereas like Felger, he's kind of more flamboyant and like out there, and like he's the one that like he'll try and do the fighting, but he doesn't know how. But like, Coombs probably like he could, like those people like you don't think they're going to be really good, but then they're just like whoa when they surprise you. That's what my guess was.
That's
I'm
good
gonna guess
logic.
I'm gonna guess you also said Coombs.
No.
You said Felger.
The reason I said Felger, and I don't know if this is an accurate recall of anything, is I vaguely remember in the episode with Coombs and Felger when they got um, beamed up to that ship to try and help SG-1. Um, I swore in that episode Felger used a Zat gun or used something to try and help someone. Like he
Right, right,
fumbled
right.
and freaked out, but then used the Zat gun. And I don't remember the other guy ever using any weapon. If I'm remembering the correct one, I swore one of them used a weapon to help someone. And then Coombs, I remember near the end of that episode, was the one that was like doing all like the computer stuff and like
Hmm.
trying to quickly do that. So maybe he was the one that used something, but I remember him freaking out because they were like all of the
I think
Jaffa were
it
about to like bash down the door or something.
I
Um,
I think you're right, and it was Felger, because I feel like there's a line where Coombs says something like, and somebody in the comments can correct us if we're totally off, but I feel like there's this part where Coombs goes, "You just shot that guy," or something like that. I don't know.
yeah, it was definitely one of them, right? It was one of them.
Yes.
And so my logic was both of them are probably terrible fighters, but I was choosing whoever had used a weapon. So that's why I chose Felcher.
Okay. Number three. Who has a better chance to get with Carter, Felger or McKay?
Now,
I'm gonna say you said McKay.
you're correct.
Okay.
Should I guess yours first and then say my reasoning behind McKay?
Either. Either.
Okay. Actually, I'll say my reasoning behind McKay. So, I think McKay, as much as I would rather it be Felger, I think Felger's just too he's just one of those people that is just so like not someone Carter would ever be interested in that way. I think she'd be very supportive of him. I felt like Carter secretly liked when McKay would kind of say these condescending bullshit things to her. And
Yes.
like it's like weirdly I think she kind of liked that, and she kind of liked that she knew he thought that she wait, am I getting this all backwards? He thought that she was hot, basically. And
Hmm.
like I think she liked feeling that he liked her, and she was amused by that. So if I had to choose out of two of them, I could see her maybe being with McKay. Also, just like how he is, even though like he's at least how I've seen him, because I haven't seen Atlantis yet or rewatched Atlantis. Um, how he was in SG-1 is just a complete douche. But there's an underlying level of you can tell he is just that's like it's like he's kind of trying to block his real self. I think like he's
Hmm.
trying to appear a certain way because I think he thinks he's like intimidated by her and all that she can do, and like
Totally.
he's very impressed by her, so instead of being kind about it he's an ass. And so maybe if you like rip away those layers of asinine-ishness he might
Hmm.
actually be decent, that she would like him. So and be with him. So yeah.
Cool. And what do you think I said?
Um I think you said McKay as well because I know you've watched Atlantis and I'm not sure if anything goes down there. So yeah.
McKay all the way. I mean, even just
Okay.
taking into account like SG-1, I think you're absolutely right about like how, Felger's kind of like he's obviously like super hyper into her, and I think that would probably make her want to back off that. Whereas like McKay, tries to like hide it by, doing that like elementary school thing where he's intimidated by her, so he takes shots.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so the next question is Daniel or Jonas? Like, who would you choose? Um, I think you chose Daniel.
Okay, I cannot pick. I literally cannot pick.
I
I love
almost
them
said
both.
that to you. I almost said that you said you cannot
I
pick.
know you were thinking it. I could tell you were thinking like she probably can't pick. And it's just I love them both for so many reasons. Like if you said I really couldn't pick, like it's really tough because I think they both have their strengths. And like when I start thinking, oh yeah, well, Daniel's an archaeologist who specializes in ancient Egypt and blah blah blah, and that's super amazing. But it's like, yeah, but Jonas is also like constantly obsessed with learning, and I love it like when people are like obsessed with learning and like that's what he wants to do. Like, and so it's just like, oh my gosh, he's an amazing character and he has that optimism, but like at the same time, like Daniel has that like need to be like heroic and do things. And so it's like I couldn't pick.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say you said Daniel.
I also said I can't answer this.
I almost said that too. I was like, I should I say that because like then you guessed Daniel, so you must have had to pick yourself. But maybe so okay, so we're
See,
both the
I was
same here.
afraid to say to you, oh, did you say you can't answer this? Because then I figured you would say to me, that's the answer you chose.
Right?
So I'm just like, I can't give away my answer, so I'll just have
Yeah,
to pick someone. But I really did think that you couldn't answer either because it's impossible for the
it
reasons you
is.
explained very well.
The next question. Would you rather ascend or become a Tok'ra? I'm gonna guess you said ascend.
You are correct. I'm going to also guess that you said ascend.
Yes, you are correct. So
Yay!
why would you choose to ascend?
Because I don't like the Tok'ra.
Okay. Okay. See, okay, I see
Well,
that makes
also I have to mention a big reason for it is I'm not putting no squiggly dude in my stomach. Like that's not happening.
no squiggly
That
dudes.
that grosses me out so much that that is like one of the main reasons. And then
Okay.
with Ascension, it just also um seems interesting. Like it seems like this weird like spiritual experience as well as like then you have like these, although then you can't use what you can like your powers that you can use, but like I don't know, I just thought if I had to choose other two, Ascension it would be.
It's funny, like you really wouldn't want to be a Tok'ra. See, this is actually a little bit hard for me because
Oh really?
I would kind of love to be a Tok'ra because I would like love the like healing ability and like longer life, and it would be kind of cool to like have to be in some like weird underground group and like to kind of suddenly have all kinds of knowledge. Like, but I would have to go to with Ascension because I've always like loved the concept of like supreme enlightenment. And like
Mm.
I've always kind of like since I was like younger, I was always thinking about this and like what is the meaning of life and what is the meaning of existence and what is the meaning of this and like the idea that you would kind of figure that out and then ascend to like a higher plane and then you're kind of like eternal, that appeals to me.
See, you answered it in the way that I would expect Samantha Carter or Daniel Jackson to answer, and I answered it in the way that O'Neill would answer.
Like, yeah, I don't want no snake in me. Yeah, right.
Because that's truly like immediately like I thought of that. I'm just like, nope.
It is a very O'Neill
And I
answer,
guess I
right?
was probably incorrect. It's not really in their stomach, right? It's in the back of their neck, is it?
I think it attaches to like your spine, yeah, in the
Yeah.
back of your neck.
Yeah.
Yeah, true, true, true.
Yeah. But yeah. So far I think we've almost answered correctly for everything for each other except for like one or two, I think.
I think the only thing we were like, and we both answered differently. I think the thing we answered differently on was Coombs or Felger.
Hmm.
So that's the thing where now we have to ask.
And then Daniel or Jonas, we both thought what we that we couldn't answer it, but we never actually said that as our answer for the other. So that would
True.
work.
That was
Yeah.
very weird, and we both had the same answer. But we'll
Yeah.
have to ask the audience to please tell us who do you think is a better fighter, Coombs or Felger?
Yeah.
And I think and I think with that, I mean, you go ahead and read the next question.
Okay. So let's see. Next question. Um, time travel. Okay, so would you want to time travel to ancient Egypt or 200 years into the future? I think I know your answer for this one would be Egypt.
Okay, and here would yours be future?
Yes.
Okay, well, okay, so we have different answers, so we got it. I
Was
mean,
I correct?
yes, you were
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I would, of course, ancient Egypt, 100%. I always
Yeah.
am like super into history, and I'd love to see it actually unfold.
Yes. Yeah.
And why would you pick future?
I think like it would just be really fascinating to see how things progress, like with technology and everything, and just see how people live. Like I think it would be really interesting. Like Egypt would be amazing too. So I kind of struggled with this one, but then I was just like, well, no, I really would actually love to see how the future would be. Like,
Hmm.
because it's like you just really have no clue. There's nothing to go off of to know what it would be like. So I find that very intriguing to, like you could imagine like flying cars and imagine all these things and you could get there and like it could be like total opposite of that, it could have went
Yeah.
back to the olden days and like people live a more simple life. You just don't know.
Yeah, you have no idea of knowing.
Yeah,
Yeah. So I
yeah,
guess that there's the fascination there. I could totally see that. I mean, that's a hard one because I
yeah,
mean, yeah, I love history 100%, but then there's also the yeah, discovery.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Cool.
so n next one, who would you rather be locked in a game of wits with? Ball or Braytac? I would say ball. Did you say ball?
Nope.
You said Braytac.
I did. Did you say
Really?
ball?
Of course, because
Okay.
Braytac would like kick my ass. I mean, okay, Braytac would probably be more fun to be in a battle of wits with, but I think he would really beat me. And so like
I mean, I
Paul,
didn't understand what this
oh,
question really was. Like, what is a game of wits? Like, is
uh,
that like knowledge based?
well, I think it's like, you are kind of like you're in a competitive situation, but you're competing based on like your knowledge. Yeah, and
Oh,
like,
okay.
and like how you can kind of come back. And I feel like Braytac, like he just would not, no matter what, you couldn't win that. Like he
I
couldn't.
think I misunderstood the question. In my mind, even though I read it as a game, like, and
Uh-huh.
obviously that would make sense. You're going against each other. I was thinking of who you'd be working with. And that's
Oh,
why I chose him because I thought, oh, he'd be great at that. But you're right. I'm stupid. Like I wasn't
so
I
in
was
that,
reading it incorrectly. And like, even though like I know a game is you're against each other, for some reason I didn't even think of it that way. And I thought of working with the person like together in a game. And so like I don't know why I thought that, but I did.
well, that
And
makes
that's
total
why I chose
sense.
him. Yeah.
In that case, you would totally want Braytac and not
Yeah.
Ball. But
Yeah.
yeah, to engage in a like game or something or a battle, absolutely Ball because Braytac would win. But
Yeah.
if you looking for someone on your side, 100%
Yeah. Like if it's a
Braytac.
team game, then you want him. Um,
Totally.
okay, so the next question. Who do you think is more musical, Teal'c, McKay, or Thor? I'm guessing you chose McKay.
No,
Did you not?
I chose Thor.
Did you?
Yes.
Okay. Is Thor more musical?
Well, I was just thinking about it, and I know, like McKay said, I always wanted to be a pianist, and then he said like he just didn't have musical talent, so I kind of like put that one
Oh,
out.
yeah.
And then I thought, well, I mean, Teal'c he could be, but on the other hand, like you have Thor, who like the Asgard, they're kind of secretive about what they do, and they probably have like a kind of music that like Thor probably jams out and just doesn't say anything because. I mean, maybe you never know. Did you say Teal'c?
No, I said McKay.
You said McKay. I didn't want to guess it because you said it for me, and I'm like, but you said McKay. Okay.
Well, because I thought, okay, did any of them ever mention anything musical? And the only one I could think that mentioned anything musical was McKay mentioning how he
That's
played
true.
piano. And I was just
You
like,
did.
okay, well then he knows how to read music, he knows how to play, like regardless of if he thinks he plays well. I mean, how many musicians do you meet that play really well and they down themselves and say they can't play? So I felt like he probably plays piano well.
Mm.
And he was the only one I could remember saying anything about music. So that's why, like, to me, it'd be really funny thinking of Teal'c with music for some reason. Like, I was thinking of him singing or something. I'm just like, that's funny. Thor would have probably been my next choice. Like, I could imagine, like, Thor, like, playing some, like, weird, like, electronic music or,
Right?
like a
Doesn't it?
little
Can't you
flute
imagine
thing.
it? Yeah. I can totally see that. A hundred
So,
percent.
yeah, so I think Thor's also a good choice. Like I could see it'd be like probably like really interesting and weird music. I think Thor would create. I think McKay would probably just play like things that were already like classical music or something, is what I would
Yeah.
imagine McKay to play.
Well, I think he said like, yeah, he was just more clinical. That's why I kind of took him as like not musical because, there's the players, they put the notes where they're supposed to be, but it's not actually music.
True. True. Yeah. That is a good point. Like I just thought, oh, he said he played the piano. It's him.
It's funny because I really wanted to guess McKay for you, but I thought because you said McKay for me that there's no way you would have like so it's funny how psychological this game is. Like I didn't even think about that. Okay. Best dressed false god. Mm, I'm trying to think. Like, did you say Osiris?
I did not because I don't know this.
Okay. That
Which
is
one is that? Is that the
Daniel's ex.
uh she was a close one. I
Hmm.
almost said her. I didn't. I couldn't like because what I had to do with this one because I never remember who is who. Like at all. Like I'll see pictures of people. Like I had to like try and like Google search like people that like within that season time range of what I've watched. um Particularly the females I was trying to find that were
Yeah.
Goa'ulds that and based off of that is kind of how I made my choice.
Hmm.
um but I had thought of her and I'm just like I can't remember what her name is. I can't remember what her name is. But then I saw someone else that I kind of thought was maybe a little bit
Ooh.
better. Um so for you, hmm, I think because you've mentioned this one before, Hathor.
That's a close one. That is like
Okay.
probably the second place, but first place is Ball.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I guess yeah, he does have cool.
Well, the only reason Hathor kind of goes second and Ball first is because Hathor only appears once, and I only see the one costume. And it is
Mm-hmm.
absolutely something I'd love to cosplay as.
Mm-hmm.
But like Ball, you see him a lot, and he kind of has, I mean, he actually looks different, and he really wears what he wears well. It
Yeah,
suits him.
compared to the rest of like the other ones. Yeah. You're all right. Yeah. Yeah. Um, okay. So, wait,
You didn't say yours.
did I not?
I don't
Oh,
think so.
oh, I was just like, am I forgetting something? Mine was Hathor. Yeah.
Oh, you said Hathor. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Because I
she's
just
really.
always thought she'd have a really cool outfit and stuff. And I was like trying to remember who else because in my mind, like for some reason, like my mind didn't go towards the guys. Like my
Hmm.
mind was going towards like the females for some reason when asked that question immediately. Like I thought the females because I feel like the females kind of have some of the cooler looking stuff. And so yeah, so then I was like trying to find all the female Goa'ulds from that period of time of what I've watched so far. And like she
Hmm.
was one of the ones that popped up and I'm like, oh yeah, I have always thought that she was really cool.
Yeah, she
Um
has a really cool
there
costume.
was someone else that also popped up and I'm just like, I don't recognize them, so I don't think they're from it. And then I looked her up, and she's like from like season 8, so I haven't even seen her yet. But it's the
Ah,
one that's like the Japanese style stuff is kind of cool.
Amaterasu,
Yeah, yeah,
Japanese sun god. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
no, no, I
I mean,
love her
I
costume
love
too.
Japanese stuff, so like I thought that was pretty cool too. But
Yeah, no, her costume's really cool. So,
yeah, yeah. Okay, so that was the best dressed false god. Who do you think is the worst dressed false god? Who would you choose? See, I should have put all of the names in front of me. This is the thing I didn't do. It's like I looked at all the names when I was making my decision, but then I didn't think to put them down to um uh I don't know his name, but someone came to mind that I think you could have chosen maybe. It's just a big old guess, but the guy with the crazy hair, like he kind of like always looked mad with like white I don't know if it was white. His hair kind of sticks out. And he was in the meeting of all the uh on that ship where like they had the meeting of all of like the it's like oh my
that
god, I'm
that big
terrible.
goal meeting? Oh no, I have no idea actually who you're talking about. Maybe my memory is poor about this. Let me check.
He was on that ship when Daniel had to try and give
Yep.
that vial of poison that would kill all of the Goa'ulds, but then Osiris the one that was the colleague of him that he worked with that got the Goa'uld put
Yep.
in her. She was on there, so then he never ended up using the vial of whatever it was to be released to kill all of them, and
Mhm.
he was on that, I think. And he always just looks his hair kind of sticks out.
Interesting. I am looking it up right now. He's one of the system lords. And
Yeah,
he
System
he's
Lord. That's the word I was trying to remember.
Mhm.
System Lord. Yeah.
I can't find because I always see like they're showing Osiris.
Oh. Cronus.
Cronus. Okay.
I mean, I don't know. That's just my guess for who you picked, but I don't really think you picked him. He's the only one I could think of.
Cronus. That's a good one. Okay. Is that who you said too? Would that have been
No,
your pick?
no.
Okay, interesting. Okay, now tell me your pick and I'll tell you mine.
Mine was Anubis.
Oh my God, you know what? This is you're not gonna believe me, but this is so crazy because before you said just now Cronus, in my brain I was thinking for Emily, I'm gonna guess Anubis. I don't know why. I was just thinking like I could totally guess that you're not into his vibe and his dress.
Yeah, you know why I think it is like,
Why?
and then then you can let me know who you chose. Is because I realized, to me, his vibe reminds me of a blend between Darth Vader
Uh-huh.
and Obi-Wan Kenobi morphed together.
No.
Because Obi-Wan Kenobi wears the big hooded thing,
Right.
but it's like a lighter brown. But it's like if Darth Vader was in hiding and he didn't want to be fully seen, he's just wearing that big black thing, and then his face is all just like not really there. It's just like whatever it is. And like yeah, so that's why I chose that.
I mean, see, it's hard for me because like even that like I like cloaks, so it's hard to say Anubis. But I would probably also like if you really held me down and said you have to tell me a system lord that doesn't dress nicely, I'd probably say Anubis because the rest are just so like I mean, one thing they're actually pretty good at is like dressing. And I love flashy stuff. Like I love that
Mhm.
there's glitter and gold and like I mean,
Yeah,
maybe if it's stuff I would never wear, I'm like, wow, you're really, they
yeah,
really go all out with their costumes.
yeah.
So,
So who
yeah.
was your worst dress?
I would probably go with Anubis, but it's like it's really difficult. It's like I would
Okay.
probably like my first choice would be no one because I even like I dig cloaks. Like I think cloaks are
Mhm.
nice. But if I had to pick, I would pick Anubis because it's so the rest is just like
Well, because it's just
you
a dark cloak and that's all it is,
yeah, so
like,
it's like
yeah, where everything else is a bit flashy with everyone else. So, yeah,
yeah.
okay, that's funny. Let's see. Did you want to ask the next question?
Sure, because I can't remember what is what, so I'll go and then you go. Who is more deceiving, Early Mayborn or Senator Kinsey?
Um,
I'm gonna say you said Kinsey.
no, I did not. I'm gonna guess you said Mayborn.
I did. I said
Okay.
Mayborn, but only because like I think Kinsey is actually not very good at being deceiving. I think he's like
Exactly. Yeah.
I think he's the worst character, but like I mean I think like in terms of he's a worse baddie, like he's badder. I hate him more. Like I mean obviously the character itself, it's a fantastic character because I hate it, right?
So
That's the
his
point.
name is Senator Kinsey.
Yes.
Okay, because Martin wrote Mick Kinsey.
Yeah, I don't know why. We'll have to give him a lot of harassment
Maybe,
for that.
maybe Senator Kinsey eats at McDonald's.
Or it's like a, you know, if Senator Kinsey and McCabe were put into one.
Oh, but yeah, I chose Mayborn for the same reason. Like,
Yeah,
he is just very good at being deceiving where you don't really know what he's doing. Like that's
yeah,
like being a good deceiver, right? Like
yeah,
if you're Kinsey, you always know like pretty much where he's heading with things. Like he's
totally.
not good at really hiding it well. Whereas in the episodes of early Mayborn, like they would then find out later like what he was involved in, that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Um, okay. That being said, now with this last one, we weren't given like any specific names. It was just kind of left open to say most improved character from evil to good or questionable to okay. Um, so who do you think is the most improved character? I would say you said Mayborn.
I'm gonna say you said Mayborn.
I did.
And so did I.
I thought that because of our discussions before in the
Yep,
previous podcast, we were both saying how like we felt like he became more likable as it continued. And I haven't fully seen Mayborn up to the extent that you have yet. Because I know we were going to revisit my thoughts on Mayborn up to when he's last in it. But what I've seen so far, like it definitely like he's a character that's grown on me that then I like. So yeah.
totally, totally. I mean, I might add like there's a second one or there is another character I think that has a similar trajectory in the between like season 8 and season 10, but that's later and
Mhm.
you'll know who I'm talking about.
Okay.
But that was our fun questions. And I mean, I think we have 5 trivia questions. Do we have time for to
Yeah,
ask each
I
other
say
these
why
things?
not? Why not?
Let's
Yeah.
ask each other when so maybe we can just like take turns. So
Okay.
I'm gonna open mine.
I'll do terrible at this, by the way. I will
Me
be
too.
terrible.
Me too. And I'm like it's just literally
We could
just gonna
just do like a speed round. Like you ask me something, I'll say if I can answer it, then I'll ask you something. We'll just kind of do that. And then we'll
okay.
be done.
So how about I start with what's the name of the Knox homeworld?
The Knox homeworld?
Yes.
Oh my God. I don't know.
Gaia. Gaia. I
Oh,
wouldn't have known
okay.
that either. I wouldn't have known that either.
So for you, what's the name of the animal SG-1 is looking for on the Knox homeworld?
Oh man, I have no clue. A Fenrir or something? I don't know. Is it
You're
what is
so
it?
close, Fenry. Fenry.
Oh my God, I'm really close.
Fenrir.
Why did that come from? Fenrir. Okay.
The name of your next child, Alyssa.
Yes,
Fenrir.
Fenrir. Oh my
Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
Finish the following interaction. Colonel O'Neill, what the hell are you doing? You know
Oh,
the episode it's from, right?
say that again. Say what's the phrase?
Colonel O'Neill, what the hell are you doing?
I don't know. Doesn't he say that to him a lot?
That's true. But in this case, he
Is
says,
this the episode where it's the time loop?
yes.
And like I don't know what he responds with that because there was probably multiple times that was that when he kissed Carter or when he's playing golf.
That was when he was golfing. You're absolutely right.
Ah,
And he
okay.
says, "In the middle of my backswing."
Oh, okay. Okay, so let's see. Next question for you. Who said this and in what context? Following, still, you, not.
Following you, still not. It was Colonel O'Neill, right?
Yes,
And he said it to Daniel, I think,
he did. Yeah.
but I don't remember what.
The answer Martin gave me, and I don't understand it, is he says O'Neill when Jackson is trying to explain Procla
Rock
Roshteo
LaRouche Teonas. Yes, okay.
Teodas.
I think you don't understand it because you haven't gotten to the Lost City yet, right?
Oh, okay.
No, you will. You're about to see that one.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
So it's
I
not
told you.
something that I forgot about. Okay.
I told you there's a lot of really good banter in that episode, so it's like you're gonna love it. Okay. So the next one, what's the name of the scientist who oversaw Project Avenger 2.0? And you've got to give the full name first and last. I would not get this. I would get the first name.
Avenger 2.0.
Mm-hmm.
Shit. I don't know. I don't know.
Jay Felger.
Okay. I was thinking Felger, but when you says that you wouldn't get it, I was just like, oh, I must be wrong.
No, it's because I forgot his first name was Jay.
J. Okay. Yeah. I did initially think of Felger just because he's the only one that I knew had like worked on a project that was in an episode, but like I don't
Yeah.
know. Um so I maybe would have gotten it partially right. Okay, so for you, what is the name of Teal'c's father?
Oh, damn, no clue. Mm-mm, not at all. What is it?
Ronak.
Ronak. Okay. I never would have gotten that.
Yeah, I
I,
wouldn't have either.
I know his father was killed by Cronus, but that's as far as
Ah,
that
yeah.
goes.
When Martin gave me these questions, like he's like, "Oh, you should try and answer them first before looking at the answers." And the only one I got right was the one that you answered. For some reason, I knew that that sounded like an O'Neill thing to say, but I didn't really know like
When?
what that was from.
Yeah.
Apparently, in an episode that I've never seen.
Which explains why you don't know where it's from. Okay,
Yeah.
next. Who said it and to whom? You ended that sentence with a preposition, you bastard.
O'Neill
Yes.
said it to, oh my God. I don't know who he would have said it to. I just know he said it. Um, is it a member of their team or is it just like a,
He said it to the first prime of Anubis.
ah, okay. Okay.
Right? Like
I,
it was when they were like imprisoned or something, and the guy was like taunting him, and he said something and ended the sentence with a preposition, and he's like, "You ended that sentence with a preposition, you bastard." Yeah, something
gosh,
like.
does Martin truly remember all of this or did he like
Oh no,
research this?
I'm sure he researched it
I was just
100%.
like, damn, Martin.
I promise he researched it.
Okay, whose turn is it to ask a question?
Your turn, and then I
Okay.
have.
Okay, so what's the name of the Goa'uld cargo ship?
Oh, Hatak. Is that
No.
right? Damn, those are the real ships, aren't they?
Teltac.
Oh, Teltec. Yeah, like the
Yeah.
Hatak is like the right ship, right? Oh my God, that's
I
we're really pathetic. We really need to learn our
I
ships.
literally know nothing. Like I just watch and enjoy, but I know nothing.
Great. Everybody in the comments are gonna be like, you guys are hacks. Okay, so now we have the final question. What is Walter's full name and rank?
Walter?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I just know him as the guy that's almost in every episode, like at the computer.
Yes, the Chevron 1 encoded.
What's his full name and rank? I have no clue, obviously.
Okay, are you ready for it?
Yes.
It is Chief Master Sergeant Norman Walter Davis Harriman.
Oh my God.
I agree with
How?
you.
How? Like, when was that ever mentioned? I don't think it was ever mentioned.
I don't know.
Maybe in the script that we
Maybe.
don't see.
Yeah. I mean, that's crazy, right?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you have your final. Do you have a final question for you? I think. Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How many times does Teal'c say indeed in season one? And
Oh,
it
and
says, guess the total amount across all seasons, shows, and movies.
okay,
That's an
in season
evil Martin question.
in season one, he says it 0 times.
You're right. How did you know this?
I will tell you how. Because a couple of days ago, I saw someone post like a Stargate photo, and then someone said, "Oh, that's the first episode Tilk said indeed in," and it was not season one. So
Oh, wow.
that's the only reason I know. The rest, I don't know, 55, 112?
167.
Okay, so 112
Yeah.
was closer.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm shocked that he's never said indeed in season one. I did not know that.
I only learned that a couple days ago, so
I wonder if Indeed was something that the actor added in on his own and then it became a thing, or if it was just something the writers added in and then it became a thing, so then they always had it. I'd be
that's a very good
curious to know.
question. I
Yeah.
would be also curious too. If anyone knows the answer, or if Christopher Judge is watching and knows the answer, please let us know.
Oh yes, because he's watching us.
You know, it's possible in 10 years, you never know who's
Yeah.
watching us.
10
The
years, he'll be bored out of his mind and he's just like, let me see these Stargate people.
the internet is forever.
Very true. Very true.